Welcome to Chapter 2 of Pirkei Avot. Chapter 2 introduces us to one of the most seminal figures in Jewish history, Rabbi Yohanan Ben Zakai. The Talmud tells us in Masechet Gittin this incredible story of adventure of Rabbi Yohanan Ben Zakai escaping the Roman siege on Jerusalem by his disciples in a coffin. In this sudden escape from the city, Yohanan Ben Zakai meets face-to-face with then military general Vespasian. And he makes a prediction. When he sees Vespasian, he says to him, "You will one day be the emperor of Rome." It comes to be that this prediction comes true. Vespasian becomes the Roman emperor, and he asks Yohanan Ben Zakai, "What can I do for you in return?" Yohanan Ben Zakai begs to save the city of Yavne and its sages. In doing so, Yohanan Ben Zakai saved the Jewish tradition. He preserved the best teachers of Torah. It is because of Yohanan Ben Zakai and this brave action that the oral tradition of Judaism has remained all of these centuries later. Rabbi Yohanan Ben Zakai is remembered for many things, being a great scholar, a great teacher, and he's also admired for his humility in his leadership. Today, we're going to focus on two Mishnayot in this text, Mishnahs Chet and Tet. The text reads, Rabban Yohanan ben Zakai kibel mihilel u'mishamai, hu haya omer, im lamadeta Torah harbe, al tachzik tova la'atzmech, ki lechach notzarta. Here, Rabban Yohanan ben Zakai is seen as a critical link in the teaching of Torah from the great sages of Hillel and Shammai. This text links him in the chain of Jewish transmission. But our text continues with a very bold statement. Rabban Yohanan ben Zakai tells us that the pursuit of Torah learning is not for one to feel prideful or boastful. Look at me, look how much I have learned, look how great of a student I am. No, the purpose of Torah study is the very purpose that you were created. You were created for this reason, to be a student of Torah and to be a teacher of Torah. So what does this strange sentence mean? Here, Rabban Yohanan is telling us that it's your job through your teaching of Torah not to make yourself great, but to be a critical link in the chain of transmission of Jewish tradition and of Jewish teaching. By learning Torah and teaching Torah, you're fulfilling the very purpose for which you were created. We're going to see now in the next text how Rabbi Yohanan truly embodied these ideas of leadership and humility in his scholarship. In Mishnah Tet, we're introduced to Rabbi Yochanan's 5 disciples. Chamisha talmidim hayu leRabban Yohanan ben Zakai, ve'elu hen. The first disciple we're introduced to is Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus. Now in this text, it's interesting. These disciples, they're not described with great flowery adjectives or reports about their learning and their strengths and their weaknesses. They're described with the use of metaphor. The first student to which we're introduced is Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus. He's described as bur sud she'eino me'abed tipa, a plastered cistern that doesn't even lose a drop. Now, what kind of metaphor could this be for a learner? Rabbi Eliezer is described as a learner who never lost a drop of his knowledge. The Bartanura says that he had perfect recall. He never forgot anything that he learned. Wow, that's pretty impressive. Students like Rabbi Eliezer, that's an essential skill. It's an essential skill to be able to know where you came from with historical accuracy, to be able to recall with precision the events of the past, and recall them for use in the present and in the future. The second student to which we're introduced is Rabbi Yehoshua ben Hanania. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Hanania is described with the following metaphor: Ashrei yoladeto, praised be the woman who gave birth to him. Now, I've taught in many classrooms, and I don't think I've ever described a student by praising his mother, that his greatness is because of the woman who gave birth to him. That's perplexing. What's that about? Rabbi Yohanan Ben Zakai is getting at a very deep sense of who Rabbi Yehoshua was as a learner and as a person. Rashi tells us that when Rabbi Yehoshua's mother was pregnant with him, she would walk to and from the Beit Midrash consistently so that the baby she was growing would only be exposed to words of Torah. She prayed hard that she would have a child who would grow to be a great Torah scholar and Torah sage. Then Rashi continues to tell us that even after Rabbi Yehoshua was born, his mother would walk with the cradle back and forth from the Beit Midrash so that her baby would only be exposed to words of Torah. Now, in the Jewish mystical tradition, we believe that every baby is born into a potential. Rabbi Yehoshua's greatness is that he not only had this potential at birth, but he actualized this potential. He actually became the baby, the child, the adolescent, the adult, for which his mother prayed for him to be. He actualized the potential he was born into, and thus he is praised. The third disciple is Rabbi Yossi HaKohen. The text describes Rabbi Yossi as a chassid, a pious one. What is meant by this word piety? Well, in this context, piety is used to describe how Rabbi Yossi always went above and beyond the letter of the law. He didn't just check the box or do as he was told or retrieved the right information in the right time, but he went above and beyond. He understood that knowledge and wisdom could be used for good and for evil. And for him, Rabbi Yossi, he had the moral clarity and the acuity to be able to use his knowledge for good. Our fourth disciple whom we're introduced to is Rabbi Shimon ben Netanel. Rabbi Shimon is described with the metaphor of Yireh Chet, one who fears sin. Thus, the text is telling us that Rabbi Shimon's wisdom lay in his understanding of right from wrong. Rabbi Shimon had a deep sense of how to continue to use his knowledge and wisdom for good, and his knowledge was coupled with a deep understanding of ethics. And the fifth student, Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, who is described with quite a powerful metaphor, Hama'ayan Hamitgaber, a spring that ever gathers force. This spring that ever gathers force is meant to intuit a student who's innovative, who's creative, who's able to take everything that he has learned and create something new, extrapolate new insights and new ideas. But then we're left with a question. We have 5 great students with outstanding talents and outstanding acumen. Is there a form of wisdom or knowledge that our texts believe is greater than all the others? As we continue with the Mishnah, we'll be able to see the way our text grapples with this tension. Im yiyu kol chochmei Yisrael bechaf moznaim, be'Eliezer ben Hurkanus bechaf shniya, machriya et kulam. If all the sages of Israel were on one side of the scale and Eliezer ben Hyrcanus was on the other side of the scale, he would surely outweigh them all. Now, if we remember, Eliezer ben Hyrcanus is lauded for his tremendous recall. Yet, Abba Shaul quotes this differently. Im yiyu kol chochmei Yisrael bechaf moznaim, ve'Eliezer ben Hyrcanus af imahem, ve'Elazar ben Arach bechaf shniya, machriya et kulam. If all of the sages of Israel were put on one side of the scale, and Elazar ben Arach on the other side of the scale, he would surely outweigh them all. Now, if we recall, Elazar ben Arach was described for being the spring that ever gathers force. So here we have it. Which source of knowledge is more powerful? The student who has perfect recall, or the student who's constantly innovating and extrapolating new ideas? Well, I think history shows us that we need both approaches to knowledge and both approaches to wisdom. We know that our societies can crumble if we don't know where we came from or if we distort the historical past. Yet we also know that if our societies stagnate and fail to innovate, it's going to be very difficult to keep evolving, growing, surviving, and thriving. And there, our Mishnah ends. So what do we make of this teaching? Rabban Gamliel, his 5 disciples, 5 approaches to knowledge, 5 outstanding teachers of Torah. What are we meant to take from this? Here's where I like to offer a bit of perspective as a teacher myself. Rabbi Yohanan Ben Zakai saw a classroom of different talented learners. He saw their differences, he cultivated them, he nurtured them. It reminds me of one of the most powerful behaviors an educator can take part in, which is a quote by Rav Moshe Taragin. He so beautifully describes the art of successful teaching as nurturing individual differences while instilling universal values. I think Rabbi Yohanan did just this. In addition to being an expert pedagogue and an expert Torah teacher, Rabbi Yohanan was able to instill universal values of the transmission of Torah and its importance, while cultivating and nurturing the differences in his students, thus allowing them to grow into their own greatness. I think this text has a very strong message, which resonates for us today. Whether we're currently sitting in classrooms, looking around, perhaps with envy, at who might be more creative, or who might have a stronger memory, or who might have a deliberate sense of right and wrong, we have to remember that we're blessed with our own unique strengths and talents, and it's our job to nurture and cultivate those to the best of our ability. It's not for us to look towards others with envy or with want or with jealousy, thinking, I wish I could do it like someone else. Rabbi Yohanan is reminding us that our hearts, our minds, our souls are instilled with talents that only we have. And when we're nurtured in the right environment, that will allow those talents to be elevated in a way which we can truly thrive as adults and as professionals. I think today, when we think about teaching and schooling, we so often forget that the role of teacher is not only just as people who transmit knowledge to the next generation, but the role of the teacher is to see the differences within our students, to be able to allow our students to be self-confident, for them to be able to understand their blessings and continue to make contributions. This text helps us see that it's a timeless question of who am I in relationship to others? What do I bring to the table? What are my strengths? And what can I continue to develop? And how can I learn from those around me? This text is a reminder that we should all continue on our journeys to learn from one another, to grow ourselves, and to make powerful contributions to the world and to others.